Hey guys, welcome back. In this tutorial, I'm going to set up a server using Node.js, Express, and GraphQL server. Basically, this is going to be a very highly technical session. And if you're wondering what we are going to achieve in this session, please watch my previous tutorial where I have shown the functionality of the application what we are going to build today. So in this application, in this server side, today I'm going to show you how using GraphQL server and you can authenticate your user login with the JWT tokens. So in case if you don't know what GraphQL server is, it's a middleware developed and supported by Facebook. It's very, very popular. The good thing about GraphQL is, and the reason I believe it's called middleware is because it makes your life very easy. You can have any front end and almost any back end and you can connect the dots. So basically imagine your front end developers are working on UI and your DBAs are working on the databases and in the middle, you are sitting in the middle and you can develop the whole system which connects the two dots together. One biggest advantage is using GraphQL, user or your client receives only what they need. So you are not going to send them like whole bunch of the data. So for example, you are running a query or you are accessing a REST API. When you access the REST API directly, it comes back with a lot of different things with what users don't need. So good thing with GraphQL is it only gives you what user is supposed to see. So today that's what we are going to build. So it's going to be a very highly technical session. And another thing I want to mention, if you don't know what JWT JSON Web Tokens are, actually these are security methods. Basically, it's a security algorithm where any authenticated user receives a token, and every time he wants to connect to the backend, the token is validated with each and every access, each and every query. So let's jump directly into that. But before we start, I'm going to share the repository, my GitHub repository. You can clone it, you can download it, and use it as per your need. But basically, so let's get directly jump into this one. So the first step you can see is that it starts with a database installation. Now, this GraphQL good thing is it can work with any backend databases. So in my example, I'm going to show you two different things like, using the same code, how you can access an MySQL and you can access a MongoDB. So let's start with the MongoDB for instance. So in case if you don't already have the MongoDB, just head out to mongodb.com and download it, the latest version. What I recommend, I want you to download the community version. Okay. This is locally, you can set it up and depending in the architecture. One thing I want to mention here, if you are on Windows machine, make sure that you are on the 64-bit machine. There are ways I think you can download the earlier version that is 3.2.0 and I will include that link into my GitHub repository. But the problem with the 32-bit MongoDB instance is that is like 3.2 something. The problem with this instance is, okay, let me show you this one. So 3.2.20 Windows version, and you can download a 32-bit copy. But the problem is, what I heard that it supports only 2 gigabytes of the data. So make sure what you're investing in. If you decide to go with MongoDB, please make sure you, I would recommend if you are on 32-bit machine, please upgrade your machine and download the 64-bit version. If you're on Linux and OS, Mac OS, you don't need to worry about anything. Another thing I want to mention here, when you are installing, there is a screen. So just go to the installation instruction and when you're installing, always install this as a service so that you don't have to restart it every time your machine starts. Another thing is like, please make sure that you have proper user ID and password authentication setup. Another option is you can always, there is a mlab.com. So there's an online version of MongoDB. All you need to do, sign up, and I think, of course, it's paid, but you can get the 500 MB free. So good thing is like, if you want to if you're just starting, go with this version, mlab version. All it takes like, you need to sign in and, basically just create an account is as simple as that. Okay. So this is the MongoDB as far as MongoDB goes. Again, you can have your code, you can choose the database like CouchDB or anything you want. I want to show you one more thing. Because for my example, I'll also be using MySQL. So MySQL server, I don't have the XAMPP installed on my machine. but it doesn't matter. Again, MySQL is like, server. I have a hosted SQL server database or GoDaddy. So basically that's pretty much it. But I just want to quickly show you, let me sign in and show you how my SQL database looks like. Okay. So to start with, all you need any database, MongoDB or MySQL, and that's all you need. Okay. Now next thing, so I assume you have a successful database running somewhere. Next thing I want you to do, head out to my GitHub repository and then just follow the installation instruction. Second thing is, okay, so I assume just like, because it's not a database tutorial, so I just assume that you have a MongoDB or MySQL server running somewhere, okay? Now, next thing is, let's go and follow the step 2. So in step 2 middleware installation, I'll show you one very short route, and then, if time permits, I'm going to do a code walkthrough. Again, it's not going to be a long session because there's too much code to write. But I'll try to explain as much as code as I can. So first thing first, let's go to the nodejs.com, and all you need to do, sorry if I can type it right, nodejs.org, I believe, okay, and download the Node.js version and open any terminal window. So I already have this Visual Studio running. What I'm going to do here, just quickly check node-v. So I already have a successful Node installation, and Node comes with npm. So let me just quickly check the npm version. That's basically all you need. One more thing I highly recommend. Let me go back to my GitHub repository installation instruction. Third thing I'm saying, you need Angular CI, but right now it's optional because I'm building the server tutorial. Second part, when I will be doing the front end, like, I'll be using Angular 6 to connect to this database, then you will need this Angular CLI. But for now, if you want, you can just install it, okay? Next thing I definitely want you to install is this npm install nodemon. So, and I'm going to install it globally. So what this nodemon is, basically it watches your server, and anytime you make any corrections to or changes to your package, you don't need to restart your node. So that's pretty much it. Next thing is, I want you to install Course, and I'll tell you what these Course are, but definitely I highly recommend using Course in your app. I'm using it, so please go ahead and use that, okay? Next step is just create any, go to your folders, documents, okay? Let me create a new folder here, and I'm going to call it a, say, server, okay? Or maybe just say GraphQL. This is my project, okay? Next thing is, please go to my GitHub repository. Okay, I'm going to fix this. I think this is because I need to run this with sudo. Okay, -g, and I was installing nodemon. But again, let me pause here because I wanted to install one more thing. Let me go back to the course, okay? So I can install both of those things all together. Course, okay? Let me give you my password and let it install, okay? Now, meanwhile, I'm installing these couple of things. Let me go back to my GitHub repository, okay? Again, and in this video tutorial, I'm going to, I'm going to put this link into the description of this video. Right now, you can clone it or you can just download it. So I'm going to download the zip. Okay. It's very light, as you can see, 230 KB only. Okay. Let me go to the downloads. All you need to do, basically, extract everything into that project directory. Okay, perfect. I'm going to copy this everything here. Go back to my documents, go back to that folder, GraphQL I created, and paste all these 7 items. Okay, so while this is copying, let me go back to the instructions and tell you what the next step is. Okay, so okay, I created this directory, I copied the entire server. Okay, then next thing is just browse to the directory and do an npm install. Okay. Sorry, let me just see. Okay, 5 more seconds. Okay, perfect. So now, okay, I should collapse everything. Okay, let's go to your GraphQL directory. Okay, and as you can see, it has copied everything. Basically, I want you to go to the server directory. So cd GraphQL, I'm going to do a ls here. Let me just make this a little bigger. Okay, so then I want you to go to server directory, cd into server. Okay, so now server, as you can see, I have a package.json. Let me do a npm install. Okay, it's going to take few minutes, but while we are waiting, let me show you what this npm install is and what actually we are installing. So let's go quickly to this one. Okay, so basically I'm installing a lot of Apollo errors and cores and .env. I'll basically go through each and everything, but right now I just want to show you quickly. Mongoose is I'm installing because I want to connect to the MongoDB database. MySQL 2 and SQLize, I'm going to use this MySQL server. And the next thing is .env. I will need, because I keep all my environment variables into .env and I need cores. So these things I will be using. While it's installing, let me quickly show you one more thing. So in under server directory, you will see a file called env. Okay. Now, this is where you will need to make corrections. Okay. Let me just quickly walk you through what this is. JWT secret. This is a secret password. Actually, this is the password is used which to create and validate your JSON web tokens. So remember I was talked about JWT.io. This is the super secret password and I highly recommend you please change it. GraphQL port, actually this is the your middleware. The server will be hosted like localhost colon 3000/GraphQL. So this is the port number I'm describing here. So depending on your configuration, if you want to change it, you can change this one. Allowed origins. So this thing is you can give you can pass a lot of different domains here. So basically what this is, suppose you host your middleware to some server. These are the only websites which will be allowed to make connections to that one. So suppose somebody is trying to hack into your server or database. So if I'm trying to hack in from my domain, it's not going to allow that. So that's what course does, CORS, course does. So I highly recommend you please customize as per your database need. Here I'm just keeping, because I am going to host everything to this domain. So I am including this one. And when I deploy to the production, I will get rid of everything else. Okay. Next thing is there are two different things I included. MongoDB mlab URL. So this is, remember, like I was showing you, if you already have an mlab account and you are using your MongoDB remote database. So this is the user, this is the string, and which is connecting to your database. If your MongoDB is hosted locally, then you use this one. And I'll tell you, where exactly you need to show which one to connect. And this is for your MySQL. I would have named it a little different, but it's like DB username is the username to your MySQL server database. DB password is the password to your MySQL password. And again, this is my database name. This is your host string, and this is MySQL. So basically, that's pretty much it. Let me just quickly see. So as you can see, it finished all the installation. Okay. So wonderful. Okay. Next thing, I believe I'm already into the server directory. So remember, I installed a nodemon. So I can do an npm start here, but instead of doing that one, I just want to do a nodemon start. Nodemon start. Perfect. So as you can see, so it's going to give me an error. The reason is it's trying to connect to the MongoDB database and MySQL database, which obviously is not going to connect because my environment file is not set up correctly. See, it gave you a bunch of error. So it's saying like there's something wrong with the. Okay, guys. So I just updated my environment settings. Now let me go to my terminal window here. Okay, and again remember I'm into the server directory here, so all I'm going to do here, nodemon start. Okay, so let's see. Again, I'm expecting it to give me a few more errors. Okay, but this time I want to show you what exactly this error is. Okay, so let me just quickly. So now this is the time I need to show you what this index.js file is. Okay, so under server directory, as you can see, this is my entry point, index.js file. And let me do a very quick code review here. Okay, so I am just creating an Express web server here. Okay, but here you have to, so for example, in this case, I'm using my MongoDB schema. Suppose if you want to connect to your MySQL server, you need to comment this line, uncomment this. That's it. Let me go to the terminal window. See, I make the changes here and this is restarting. So it should show me a message. See, so it still complained about the MongoDB, which is okay, but you can see it is saying connected to MySQL ERP database. So basically that's, I wanted to, show it to you. But this time, as I said, like, I'm using the MongoDB, so I'm going to uncomment this, comment this out here, okay? Next thing is, it is complaining because, I don't have a local MongoDB URL here. My MongoDB in this case, I'm using it from the server. So I'm going to uncomment this and I'm going to comment this here, okay? So basically all it's telling me that, what I'm doing here, that I'm connecting to my like MongoDB, which is hosted into the AmLab environment. So let's save this one, okay? And as you can see here, it will give you, it should come back and says, okay, you know what, connected to the MongoDB ERP database right now. So this is how you can control basically all its take, everything I've written into environment file. So it should be pretty easy. One more thing I want to show you here. By default, so let's talk about the course. So remember in environment file, I set up a lot of hosted domain websites. So if I go ahead and comment this code out here, sorry. Basically, I tried to put the proper comments here, but basically if you try to comment this one and you uncomment this, so that means you are allowing every website, any website hosted anywhere to access your GraphQL server, which I don't recommend it. But in this case, let's just, this is for the development purpose, but in production, definitely, you want to like comment this one and like uncomment this. So basically it's going to, it's going to read everything from the environment file, and is going to allow only those websites which is listed here in the environment file. Only those websites can access this one. Last thing I want to show you here, you can see GraphQL equals to false. So again, this is the production setting. So but for the development, I want to quickly show you, turn it out to true. So if you do that, and then all you need to do, localhost, just open any browser window, and let's go to the localhost 3000. So remember, this is the port number we gave, okay? So if you hit this one, it should show you that welcome ERP user. Next thing is /, I want you to type GraphQL. So basically then this will open the GraphQL server here, okay? Let me go back to the code. So basically this is, all the 3 or 4 lines, that's exactly what it is doing. Again, this is only for the development purpose, so I do not recommend leaving it to true when you deploy it to the production, because you do not want outside people to access this tool. This is only for for the developers only. Okay, next thing is, as you can see, this is how in this very basic code I'm setting up the MongoDB here, which is connecting, and if there's any problem, it will let me know. Okay, one very important thing here is schema. So when you're working with the GraphQL, you have to identify the schema. So let me show, in this case, I'm using this schema and I'm attaching this schema to my, I'm passing this app.use. So if somebody is accessing localhost 3000 and GraphQL, that server will use this schema. Now let me show you GraphQL in action. The very best thing about this GraphQL is it gives you a very nice looking API. So it tells me that there are two different things available here, query. So it tells me that three different queries are available. So pretend that you pass this on to your front-end developer. If the guy is using Angular or Vue or a plain JavaScript, HTML or React or any JavaScript framework, they don't even need to, even non-JavaScript framework, they really need to care about how to access the data. All they need to know, if I call this function over HTTP, it will return this. Basically, that's how you read. So if I call this function get user queue, it will return to these two strings in JSON, name and email. Very simple. So basically login user queue. So in your front end, all you need to do, call this function login user queue, and from the form, just pass your email and password, and it will give you back the token. So basically, as simple as that. This is the query thing. So as you can see, it's a very basic app right now, and there are only 3 queries I allowed. And there are a couple of mutations, add user am. So mutation, I want to just tell you that, if you're registering a new user, so it was going to check you pass name, email, and password. If the email already exists, it will return back fireback saying, you know what, no, you cannot create this user because it already exists. Update user am. So suppose somebody hack into your token, and if they are trying to update this, it won't allow that. So user can only update their own IDs, and I will show you how I am achieving that. Third thing, the biggest advantage is, that's what I discuss in my blog here. I'm saying it's not only authentication. This was the authentication part only. Like you come and log in with your user ID and password. I will authenticate you. I will issue a token like JSON Web Token. But I'm going one step beyond. I'm saying, okay, role-based authorization. So suppose there are different users like employee or admin or supervisor. So and you want to change your own role. So in that case, I have a different method. So it will not let you using this GraphQL API. The good thing is if you are a user and you are trying to hack into my database, you are trying to update your own role, my GraphQL server will not let you do that. So there is a dedicated method I have written, and it checks for your role. If you in your database, suppose your ID has that admin role, then only it will allow you to do that. And I'll show you, once you see the code, then it will make more sense. But basically, that's what the GraphQL API is doing right now. Now, let me show you, let me do a quick, at this point, if you are watching this just so that, you're working on an app and that's all you need, you can stop here. But if you're a developer and if you're interested how this code is written, please continue. Okay, so for developers, as you can see, the schema is pulling that MongoDB schema. And MongoDB schema, as you can see, I have written everything. So under the schema folder, I have 2 schemas, MongoDB and MySQL. Basically, both are 100% same in this case. Let me show you why. In MongoDB schema, I have written a couple of resolvers, and resolvers ultimately connect to the connectors. So connectors is actually where connections to the database is happening. So schema and resolver, it's in most of the cases, it doesn't matter what database you are using. You are using MySQL or CouchDB or MongoDB. Your schema and resolver should be the same. But basically, let me tell you what a schema is and what it is doing. So in schema, basically, I define what are the queries I'm going to write and what are the mutation I'm expecting users to happen. So basically, all is saying, okay, and this is what actually you were seeing at the GraphQL API here. So these are you set up your query and mutation here. Basically, you tell your each function. Suppose I'm expecting a user to see only login. So I'm expecting what kind of arguments user will take. So and then what it's going to return. So basically, as you can see, login user queue, it takes 2 parameters, email and password, and it returns a value called login user, which is a token of a string. So that's how you write the schema. Okay. Now, next thing is I take this schema, take this example, login user queue, and I pass it to a resolver. Now let me show you what resolver is. So again, In MongoDB case, again, so login user R, as you can see, this is the reference here, and I'm getting it from MongoDB resolver. So in MongoDB resolver, let's go to the login user R. So basically it takes whatever it's coming from the query, okay? Just check. If input is there, it's a, if input is not there, it's saying, you know what, stop, because you are supplying me a blank data, it doesn't mean anything. It will kick you out right there. But if input is there, is going to further proceed. That means it will say, now it's time, input is good, let's go and connect to the database. Let me show you one more very important thing here, okay? Basically, if you understand how the flow is happening, then you will understand everything. And sorry guys, you have to go through the code to understand it, how it's working. One more thing, suppose you are updating your own ID. So take a look at this function. So I'm saying update user M. What it expects from front end, it says, okay, give me your email, give me your name, give me your email, and give me your password. Okay. So suppose you are updating your own password. All these three things are asking it here. Again, this is nothing to do with actually, like front end is user is only supply this one, but actually there's authentication token also comes from the user. So this is not even seeing coming up here, because that comes at the header level. So let's see this thing, update a user M. So what it takes, okay, let me take all those values, it goes to the resolver. This resolver, as you will see, it's a little different. Okay, where is that update user R? Okay, look at this. It says, okay, give me all the input, but also it takes the context. Context is the object, which is your front end is supplying a JSON web token. So it takes the ID, it calls a function called check token. What check token does, it says, okay, I understand you are giving me a token, but then it takes the token, it decrypts that token. So what it decrypts with is JWT secret. Remember that secret, my super secret password, you set it up at the server. So it takes the password, it decrypts it, and then it figure it out, okay, this is what your ID is. That's basically what it is doing. And it says, okay, I found your ID, and then it applies to that connector. Now, let me go to the update user M. And then, basically, that's why user is not even supplying their ID. They think my email is my ID, but actually that's not your ID. Your ID is even hidden. It's the unique ID, which is supplied through the token. One very important topic here I want to cover is like role-based authorization. So for example, you are an admin. So only you are allowed to change your role. So remember, in update user M, I haven't even given functionality of the roles here. So roles actually exist at the user level. So you will not even see it here, because I'm not allowing you to users to update their own roles. Only an admin is allowed to use their own to update anybody else's role. So how this is functioning, this function is a little different. It takes a resolver, it takes, okay, give me context. Context means suppose I am admin, so it will access my token, and then it's, suppose you can write any roles here. You're saying, okay, only admins are allowed to do that. Only owner are allowed to do that. So basically, you have to look at this resolver here. What it does, first it takes that context, it figure it out what my ID is, and then it takes my ID. So and then it figure it out. So sorry, it's a little confusing here. So it figures it out my ID, and then suppose it figures out the other person's ID who I'm trying to update. So suppose I'm updating another person's role here. So, and then it appends to the input, and then it goes to the connector. Now you should see how it's connecting to that one. So in connector, okay, this is where actually the real magic happens, and you connect to that database directly. So in this function, as you can see, update user admin C, it takes the input. It says, okay, give me my ID. That means the ID of the person who's pretending to be an admin. And then it says, it figure it out. It says, okay, give me that ID. And it gets all the roles from this my ID. And then it takes the role and it compares to the expected role, saying, okay, only because only an admin can do this one. So it takes my ID roles, it compares with expected roles, and if any match is happening, then only it will allow me to do that. So sorry, it's a little hard to understand, but once you see the function, you work through this one, it will be a little easy for you to understand. So again, what I'm passing here, these are the expected roles. That means only the people with admin and owner users are allowed to update users role. And you can use this logic in anything else you want. So basically this is how I have written all the schema connecting to the resolver connecting to the connectors, and connectors connecting to the database. So again, the magic is, suppose next day you said, okay, you know what, I don't like MongoDB, and let me just so all you need to do, uncomment this one and start using MySQL. So in MySQL, the way it happens, as you can see, so it will go and try to figure it out MySQL schema. Now in MySQL schema, as I told you, is actually is 99% same as the MongoDB schema. Schema is not like, it's kind of database independent. And then it goes to the resolver. And again, resolver, what you will find is database independent. So 99% is the same. You might ask me why you write the two different files. Maybe I shouldn't have, but please pardon me, because, I just wanted to explain the flow. So otherwise, I would have combined these two files. But in MySQL, and then basically it connects to that MySQL connector here. This is entirely different than MongoDB, because this is where actually you are making connections to that MySQL instead of MongoDB. So again, here I'm using SQLize and MySQL too. So basically, again, sorry guys, you have to go through the code to understand what's happening. But basically, the idea is very, very same. The only thing is, the way you write the functions in MongoDB using Mongoose is little different than the functions you use in SQLize to connect to MySQL. But basically, you will see the same. It's like, it's the promise based, or it's, and then you get the result as an observable. So user.find1, and instead of in MongoDB you just say ID equals to this one, but in SQLize you include a where statement. That's the only difference. But otherwise the functions are almost the same and everything else is the same. So this is how you set up your server. Sorry, it's a rough code and a lot of things to understand here. But as you can see, this is working for me. And I have used the very latest, in Angular, I'm using 6.1.0, latest GraphQL and everything, all the package.json, you can see I'm using the latest versions of everything possible here. And I'm able to, connect these things here, okay? So hopefully, and this is the reason I'm doing this tutorial here, just to explain the code, because, in future I'll be doing a lot of different apps and I'll be showing the code. Basically, the fundamentals will be the same. I'll always be using the GraphQL, and I'll be using GraphQL to access my data from different servers. One last thing I want to mention, you should definitely look in this technology. The reason is, using GraphQL, I have worked on a lot of tutorial, a couple of my clients, they are still using Visual Basic to connect to Access database. And they came to me and they say, you know what, how can I change it? But, magically, if you learn this GraphQL, you can definitely, I guarantee you can convert any old ugly Visual Basic or any Java connecting to that, whatever database, you can convert this to nice, like, new architecture here. So this is the reason I like this tool. I hope this tutorial worked with you, and if you have any problem, just leave your comments to my GitHub repository and I'll try to answer it. Thank you very much.